Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I'm doing an unexplained phenomena video on prophecy. Before I get into this though, if you enjoy my content, it would really help me out if you could hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, share my content on all of your platforms, and post a comment or two. Remember, I welcome your comments, even if you disagree with me. And check me out over on Rumble for my political commentary and weekly current events. If you enjoy a good book, check out my author page on Amazon.com. My pen name is H.L. Anderson. You can find all of my books there, including a science fiction Western series called Drifters. This is at its core, it's a shoot 'em up, fist fighting Western, but it's got everything in there. It's got time travel, mythology, monsters, magic, vampires, everything's in the series. So yeah, if you get a chance, check it out. And there's other things on my channel too, on my YouTube page or the Amazon author page as well. If you get a chance, check it out. Find something you like, and I hope you enjoy it. All right. Prophecy. There have been prophets throughout history who allegedly predict world events and in whom many people believe. I want to make it perfectly clear that I do not put faith in any human being's ability to prognosticate future events. It has been my experience that a learned man or woman may make an educated guess about what will probably happen in their field. And some people prognosticate in generalities and get lucky. For the most part, such seers are hit or miss. Now, if you're an expert in your field and you study the situation intensely, you can predict a lot about what's going to happen in your field. But that's different. That's not prognostication. That's just a prediction based on your knowledge. Okay. Again, true prophecy, for the most part, these people, they're hit or miss. There are those who claim to have divine guidance or insight, or they receive messages from a divine source. If they were indeed receiving such divine assistance, their prognostications would be spot on 100% all of the time. And they would be world famous. Every financial institution would dedicate a team to track their every word, and world governments would go to war for exclusive access to them. That ain't happening. It hasn't happened since the year 2000, or since the year 35. Yeah, and somebody was crucified back then. So, in the past, there have been alleged prophets who made predictions with remarkable results, to be sure, but none of them have been 100% spot on. Nostradamus is probably the most famous of these, and most of what he wrote was meaningless. He did get some things right, but that depends on the interpretation. He wrote his prognostications in 4-line quatrains, which he claimed was necessary to avoid persecution and prosecution by the church. These quatrains are vague and loaded with meaningless phrases. There were people who read them and were able to match these quatrains to historical events, but it usually took a serious stretch of the imagination, such as, he predicted Hitler's rise to power, but misspelled the name. He wrote Hitler. He predicted, allegedly, Saddam Hussein's rise to power by the color of a turban Hussein sometimes wore. Again, it all depends on the interpretation and the interpreter. Edgar Cayce was a mystic and a psychic who made all manner of predictions. I think by sheer percentages, he was far more accurate than Nostradamus. They call Cayce the sleeping prophet because he would sleep and then talk in his sleep. That's crazy. Cayce claimed to be visited by a woman with wings who gave him the ability to comprehend books by laying his head on them and sleeping. Now, allegedly, he went from a mediocre student to the top of his class, and, by doing this, so if it worked, great. If not, I don't know what to tell you. He cured partial paralysis from a spinal injury by using an herbal remedy that he dreamed up. He cured laryngitis through hypnosis. He cured a brain injury by correctly diagnosing it as a spinal injury. It was cured by a vertebrae readjustment. Now, those are documented. We know for a fact that happened. So maybe Edgar Cayce, there was something to him. I don't know. But there's more evidence to support him than Nostradamus. I'm just saying. Edgar Cayce gave readings and helped people for 40 years. He accurately predicted the 1929 stock market crash. He warned people. The ones who heeded his warnings were spared. The ones who didn't lost fortunes. He predicted the world economic recovery in 1933. Now, those he could have been paying particular attention to the stock market and to political events in the U.S. because that's what drove the recovery in 33. I don't know. All I know is that he predicted it. So, in January of 1934, he predicted Hitler's rise to power and that he would be overthrown by an outside war. It didn't take a genius to predict Hitler was going to rise to power in 34. I'm just saying. In 1935, he predicted World War II and accurately named an alliance between Japan, Austria, and Germany. Again, it didn't take a genius to predict that. He predicted the deaths of FDR and JFK and the period of civil and racial unrest in the U.S. in the 1960s. Now that, you got to give him. He predicted the finding of the Bimini Road off of the coast of Florida, calling it a portion of temples, and that it was part of Atlantis. He predicted that they would find it in 1968, and sure enough, they found the Bimini Road in 1968. He predicted Russia abandoning communism during the Cold War, and that didn't take a stretch either because it couldn't last. Eventually, they were going to have to abandon communism. He predicted the El Nino and El Nino weather events. Now, that is something to consider right there. Because I don't know how he could have predicted that. He predicted that the 44th president of the United States would be black. Now, that is impressive right there. Because he got the number right. It's one thing to say eventually we'll have a black president. But he predicted the exact number, 44. And he predicted his own death within 4 days. So yeah, some of the scariest things he predicted included a pole shift of 16 to 20 degrees, which would devastate the world. He made this prediction in the 1930s. If he was correct, Africa would have been divided into 3 parts. Many areas in Asia would have been underwater. The coast of China would be moved back hundreds of miles from the ocean. The ocean would have claimed hundreds of miles of coastland. Most of Europe would have been underwater. Russia would have been isolated by new seas. Most of the west coast of the U.S. would have been underwater. Now, he said that this would happen in 1998. Now, there was a tiny shift in 98, but nobody really noticed. So he did predict a pole shift, but it wasn't near as devastating as he thought. As a matter of fact, very few people noticed. Edgar Cayce made plenty of mistakes, and they were always convenient excuses. There was always convenient excuses for his mistakes. But what all of this boils down to is that there is proof that psychic powers do exist. We know for a fact that they do. Unfortunately, the vast majority of psychics these days are frauds. They use grifter skills and psychology to fool the gullible. I maintain that anyone with any real ability to divine the future is squirreled away somewhere by the various governments or financial institutions. Nostradamus wrote thousands of quatrains, and only a handful have even come close to foretelling the future. Edgar Cayce predicted many things, but anyone with a shred of intellect knew that World War II was coming. It was, in effect, a continuation of World War I. All you had to do was pay attention to politics. Had he predicted World War I, then that would have been impressive. The only reason for the pause between the two was that the Spanish flu killed so many people, they didn't have enough warm bodies to, men to continue the fighting. Casey did readings for people, and he helped cure their afflictions with a reasonable degree of success. That's why I put more stock in him over Nostradamus. If you want to figure out if someone truly has psychic or prognosticative power, pay attention to what they predict and see if it comes true. If it does, then test them 9 more times. If they have a shred of power, over half of these predictions would be true. And don't fall for the "a man will travel to blank in the month of blank" type of bullshit. That's so general that it's bound to be true. Give them real tests, specific stuff. Make them specific and make them tough. Do not give them any slack or wiggle room. And if you find someone who passes all 10 tests, get the lotto numbers quick before the government finds out. That's all I'm saying. I hope this finds everybody well. And if anybody has any predictive, prognosticative stories, stick them in the comments. I would really love to read them. You folks have a good one now. God bless one and all.